right, so I'll call the December meeting to order. And we will start with approving the minutes of the regular meeting of November 20th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of November 20, 2024.
Bob's motion, and second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes? Abstain?
Yeah,
Kevin
I
was
wasn't
not
here, so I assume they were right.
Yeah.
We had Bob check them over thoroughly for us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I went over it.
What he
I
said.
skimmed over them, but I have no idea.
We'll go ahead to the financial report.
Yeah, so just a little word here. So revenue remains strong compared to budget with large positive variances in water sales, interest income, public water protection. Interest income is up from budget due to the interest earned on the CDs. Expenses remain relatively consistent with budget. I will say when I was looking today, I noticed that the insurance expense seemed a little high compared to budget. I still have some work to do reconciling the prepaid insurance account, so I have a feeling that might shake out a little bit differently once that's squared away. Cash amounts of $4.2 million are strong enough to support upcoming debt service and operations. Does anyone have any questions on the financials?
The very next to the last item, the government management. It's not a complaint or anything, but just a comment. Actual 58,043, budget 58,043. When do we ever get figures that match perfectly like that? That just looks very odd.
Yeah, I think we probably are budgeting the same amount and just accruing it every month, so we're probably lined up with budget. I can double check that though.
That's
You
something we don't
remember that
see.
Spread that one out evenly.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? Go on to public comment. No members of the public, skip that one. Activity report and project update. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Crew's been busy. We did have a couple water main breaks, one of them being 108 Court Street. That did consume a lot of time. That was a very expensive repair for us. That did take place due to one of our PRV vaults. We have 3 that separate the high pressure zone from the low pressure zone. And from the best that we could ascertain from the investigation was a rock went through, ended up damaging the PRV, so the pressure was not separated. So the high pressure system, which is typically, depending on which zone you're at, it's 100 plus pressure, which we throttled down to about 55 to 80, depending on what pressure vault you're near. Additionally, the payment for that alone probably cost us about $60,000+ for that.
A lot of asphalt there, a lot of area.
A lot of coordination between having police details closing the roads down and traffic control as well. We're happy that we made those repairs in time before the winter season, so we didn't have to babysit that, and our customers and ratepayers don't have to drive over that and experience that throughout the winter season.
Was an improvement made to prevent something like
What
that?
we did was we contracted with Hydrus Control. You probably noticed in the budget we have that in there as well. I think $8,000 is a good investment annually for us to make sure that those PRV vaults are functioning properly, being maintained. As we just said, you potentially could save that investment, or you could recoup your investment by preventing another issue like we had on Court Street.
Was that a 24-inch line there?
That line there, no, that was a 12-inch line
12 inch.
over there.
And how did the line look? I mean, I don't know how old it is, but how did it look? Was it in good shape? Was it any pits, anything that jumped out at the workers that might look like a problem? Made up?
No, nothing really to note that stood out. It's just, when you have a water hammer, a 10-pound pressure swing in a system, it can create major issues, can find a weak spot and have blowouts. But nothing to note as far as the main being in poor shape.
Good. That's important. Because they're going to be paving that mill and fill next year. Or hopefully.
That one was advertised. So that one has been advertised, and I believe that has been awarded. I don't know who won the contract on that yet, but we'll see.
Before you go on that, Mike, what happened with the inquiries to the insurance carrier about this incident?
We filed the information, but I have not heard back on their review of it. Yeah. There is a potential, because it was a mechanical failure, that our insurance could cover. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that would be nice. Gates, Hotel Road, been out there locating gates. And then, you know, a couple of gates checked and missing number over at Lafayette Street. Hydrants, we're working on doing our fall flushing. Fall flushing has been completed. Moving on to hydrant inspections for both publicly owned and privately owned hydrants. New services, we did have 3 added in November. Current year-to-date is 38 new services for the year. Services, we did have one for shut-off for repairs, and on-off for repairs, while they're making repairs to their home. We did have to repair a few service boxes out on Hotel Road. We did have to repair another one on Diamond. Meter information is consistent. With station checks, crews are doing a good job, keep up with station checks. We do have one staff member that typically is tasked with station checks that has been out on medical leave. So I am pleased to see that we have been keeping up on our station checks. We did not have any water quality complaints for the month of November. And if you can see, I'd just like to point out in 2024 year-to-date totals, we have 9 water quality complaints to 2023 at this time of 41. Laboratory, they did 52 distribution system tests, and the average chemical usage is consistent. And it's nice to see that temperature coming down. Lower temperatures mean stronger, longer lasting disinfectants throughout a distribution system. And then Lake Auburn, the water treatment manager, Chris Curtis, been keeping up with his patrols, as you can see there. And the Auburn Water District was averaged 39% usage versus Lewiston 61%. Weather, for the most part, if you ask me, I think we've made out pretty good this fall. November, we did have a few cold days, but overall, it's been good weather for us. Dig safe locates, you can see that number has dropped off quite dramatically since October, almost in half. Typical this time of year. Paving plants slows down, and projects, construction work slows down. Duty foreman calls, nothing really to report there. Pretty much norm for this time of year. Any questions with the activity report? No? All right, moving into project updates. Again, reaching that time of year where we try to do more maintenance with our hydrants, fleet maintenance, etc. 4th Street, Marion Street, remaining work that we have over there is going to be completed in 2025. That's when they do their finished paving. They will raise our gate valves and our service boxes. Hotel Road, we did receive an invoice last week from the city of Auburn for our quantities for raising and lowering our gate valve boxes. There is a discrepancy with what we bid and what they billed us for. So we have crews going out there verifying all of the water valves are up to, are at grade, and making sure that they are operable.
Question on this, Matt.
Sure.
Why are we invoiced by the city of Auburn? Why wouldn't we be invoiced by the contractor who did the work?
Because we coupled with the city of Auburn.
So I know we're coupled with, well, Seward's coupled with Lewis, so we're coupled with Auburn, so the contractor
So-
sends the bill to Auburn City and they bill us?
Yeah, so
Kind of a roundabout
we're a
way.
bid alt on the city's project, so the billing goes through the city. I think it actually works nicely for us to work through because it gives us a blanket to make sure between us and the contractor, we have good relationship with the city, work well with them, so if there's some discrepancy, or if we have to have a conversation or a meeting, it's easily facilitated that way. And from what I've experienced, we did receive, we're talking about DOT projects, the Court Street, Minot Ave.
Center.
Yeah, up to Fairview. That was awarded, and we were a bid alt with the DOT. We did receive their bids back, and what we put in for, what we allocated for a budget for them, they were 36% over just for the gate valves, and they were 172% over for the sewer. So, again, I think we've had good experience coupling with the city. We've been treated fairly, and I think it's a good relationship that we want to maintain.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good to know. Thank you for sharing that.
that's all I have. Anybody else have questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to new business, we have the meeting schedule first.
All right, 2025 is upon us. As you all know, our water trustee meetings are held the third Wednesday of every month following the third Tuesday, which that last statement can kind of complicate it sometimes because the third Wednesday doesn't always coincide with the third Tuesday. So that kind of regulates it so that the water meetings always follow the sewer. So I pulled up all the dates for 2025. I went through them all. I did not see any conflict with state or federal holidays. I did not see any conflicts with any other municipal or state business that would require us to postpone or reschedule that. So I've laid these meeting dates out in front of you. We are going to keep the same format of the meetings being held at 4 p.m. We send our notifications out and get those posted the week in advance. Right now, the current slate of officers are up at the top. President Jason Paulina, Treasurer Bob Kavanaugh, myself as Superintendent, and Eddie Williams is our clerk. Every March is our annual election of officers. So I kind of bring this up as just a reminder to think about that as we approach that time to be prepared to make those appointments. So in order to get this posted to our website as our official schedule for 2025, I am looking for the trustees to vote on and approve this meeting schedule.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve. 2025.
Motion and a second. Kevin and Dennis, is there any discussion? Anybody need to check their calendar? Hearing none, all in favor of approving these dates? Unanimous.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on to water quality report. Things have been really well. This year has been an exceptional one for water quality. As I've said throughout the year, I've been kind of surprised by that. Our biggest factor that we've kind of struggled with through the midsummer months and up through this fall has been the dry conditions. We've had well below average lake elevation, basically going back to July. The most recent storms have rebounded the level in the lake. I notice it most when I'm driving north on Route 4, and you can look out and see the rock pile where the island used to be, and like, wow, that was really exposed there. The unfortunate part about that is the lake being lower, there's a lot of the soft soils that are now exposed too, so where your waves are lapping is not where it traditionally does in the rocks, it's into that softer soil which can stir stuff up. But we've weathered the storm very well, and the water quality is very good. So
I've noticed that on Route 4 there, that Bird Island has disappeared when the water's high.
yes, yep. It's but yeah, so it's doing well now. It's coming back. So, that's it for water quality. Oh.
Future- Oh, do you need?
I just went out of order on things. I was actually supposed to talk about the water quality strategic plan. I was talking about,
Oh, okay.
yeah, water quality is an old business. Sorry, I jumped around there. Water quality strategic
Oh.
plan. This is something I had not mentioned yet. It is something that I've been wanting to do and wanting to find the funds and come up with a plan to pull together. Since our last meeting, the last draft of the budget that you've seen, I have inserted an additional $20,000 in funding, which is in our equipment portion of our budget. We can use this money, this $20,000 I put into our budget, in conjunction with a $30,000 capacity development grant to complete this water quality strategic plan. What I'd like to accomplish by this is to hire a qualified firm to look at our water quality data, go back as far as necessary. We have very good data. It's polished and ready to distribute for them to analyze. I'd also like to have them look at our finished water quality data and make predictions on, as the data has trended. As we all know, the winters have warmed, we have less ice coverage, we battle more and more every year, our raw water quality. Try to make predictions for us on when we should start planning for advanced treatment or filtration. It is something I really want to be prepared for. Last year in a meeting with the Maine Drinking Water Program, the executive director asked me what my plan was for filtration. I kind of looked at her and we had kind of an interesting quick chat, but I didn't necessarily answer that. And the short answer is we don't have a plan. The plan is we continue to try to maintain our water quality data and hope that we don't need to make drastic changes. But I really feel like it is in our best interest to have a plan. What does our data say? When should we, what is the trigger points to say, okay, start the process? With this analysis, with this strategic plan, I would like to also define, well, what is the process? A few years ago, the district was awarded an SRF loan to do the preliminary design of a filtration plant. It was around $2 million. We wound up not taking that loan, but it spurred a lot of the conversation of what it actually takes to put together the design. It's looking at your water quality, it's piloting different treatment techniques. There's many different types of filters that you could use to treat our water, or other techniques. So you'd have to do siting, you'd have to do piloting, you'd have to do preliminary designs. This study is not looking to accomplish all those tasks, but to lay them out and provide time frames for, okay, if 2027 or 29 or maybe it's 2035 would be the trigger to say, based on the current trend, you're going to need it by then. Lay out the plan. Is it 1 year for water quality, 2 years for siting and design, 3 years for construction? What's the plan? So I would like to do that. I just wanted to bring that up as an FYI. Certainly next year, I've already kind of started a list of what we're looking for. I did preliminary talk with this with the Lewiston Water Superintendent. They were actually very interested in this as well. So there is potential that we could get Lewiston to partner with us on this, further decreasing the cost to us.
So that $20,000 budgeted is just for us?
That would be just our portion of this. If we could couple this with funding from Lewiston, couple this with a $30,000 grant, and if they got a $30,000 grant, the more money we got, the more of this study we could build out and define this. But at the very least, I feel $20,000 coupled with our grant could get us what we need. Again, I'm not looking for your approval on this. I'm just bringing it up as an FYI, and it is in your budget that you have in front of you tonight, and that was distributed for the public hearing. But I had not brought it up before. So
Do you have plans to ask Lewiston if they want to participate?
So it kind of came up since the last time I had talked with you. I was talking to them about water meters actually, and I said, oh yeah, by the way, I mentioned that I was working on this, and they were very interested. And I told her that, well, maybe we need to sit down the next couple of weeks with our staff, shared water treatment staff, and really go through these bullets of, what are the objectives that we all want to obtain here, and then we can, make a formal request to partner before we put the bid out, so.
Very good.
So yeah, that's the plan with that. Sorry I jumped order there.
That's okay. Future projects, or did anybody have thoughts or comments about the plan and that addition?
Just a quick thing about the design plan. It'd be nice to know if a treatment basic design could be figured out to accommodate more than one type of filtration, so that if we found there was issue with something, with one type we needed to filter something, we could do that. But also have it, not one size fit all, but also have a design that would maybe could change that out if we had to. It costs money, yes, but if we could change that type of filtration out to filter something else or deal with something else, rather than just have one finite filtration system, be stuck with it. If we have another issue, we can't deal with that because this isn't designed for that.
You're actually
Multi-purpose design would be nice.
You're absolutely right, Bob. I've been told that it's not the first time I've had a discussion about filtration of our water with a consultant. Our water actually would be very tricky to filter because 90% of the time our water is very clean. Like right now, our finished water quality is better than what finished water quality is from most filtration plants. Our water is very good. That makes it very tricky. So do you run that really clean water through a filter? There may be portions of the year that we run the water just as it is right now. If we go into this knowingly and it's our choice, we may be able to maintain our filtration waiver and utilize raw water quality, but in those times of year in the fall when the water's warm and we do have algae, we turn on the filtration process when we hit certain triggers. That could save a lot of O&M costs if you don't have to run those filters all year round. But if we wait till we hit a trigger and the state says you lose your waiver, then we would be stuck like saying, okay, well, we've got to run filtration all year, whether we actually need it or not. And it would get very tricky when you're trying to treat really clean water. It's actually easier to treat dirty water than it is to treat really clean water. Try to wrap your mind around that, but it is. So, but yeah, no, that's all part of what this would kind of. We're not going to design a filtration plant with this money, but we're going to lay out the steps and the time frames and put the bullets in there of what you would accomplish with the different steps.
Thank you. That's good. That's good to hear that.
All right. Future projects.
Okay, kind of in line with that. I know we've got our final budgets in front of us here. We've got the 2025 budget for water, but I know there's a lot of stuff that we've been talking about. We've been talking about water metering. We've been talking about this building and the long-range plan. I mean, we've got trucks parked outside. We don't have garage space. The way the city's growing, does it make sense for us to stay here? What are we going to do with this building? There's a lot of stuff. Asset management, we don't really have asset management software. We don't have staff to do asset management. Over the last 12 years since I've been here with the district, we've increased our customer base by around 500 customers, give or take a few. We've added miles and miles of water main. We've taken on new pump stations, and in all this time, we've reduced our staffing by 1. It's getting harder and harder to juggle all the things and get all this work done. It's clear to Matt and I that we're understaffed in certain departments. We're meeting all of our objectives, but we're not meeting all of our objectives, and we really don't have a good long-range plan. We really need more. The problem is I don't have that picture clear yet as far as what the funding for that would look like. I just want to tell you that we are going to continue to work on these things: water metering, capital planning, asset management, looking at structuring ourselves to make sure we have the right amount of staff. I'm hopeful that by March or April, I will be able to come back to both boards and lay this out for you with a plan for what we should do with metering, what we should do for staffing, and how we get these other programs and initiatives going, and what we're going to need for funding to do that. So it's a little non-traditional, but I'm looking for us to continue to approve our budgets as they're presented, but just know that potentially in the midst of 2025, we could reopen and amend the budgets to include more funding for this type of stuff. And at that time, with more funding, we might have to look for more revenue. But at any rate, I'm not looking for any approval, or I'm just looking to inform you all, explain all that. I wish I had it ready. I wish I had a clearer picture, but you know, we've been through a lot in the last year. We've done pretty well to get us to this point. We just got a little bit more work to do. So that's all I had on that.
Okay. SCADA agreements, we'll jump over water quality.
Yeah.
Jump into the old business SCADA agreement here.
Yeah, so as you know, this is something I've been working on with the Clean Water Authority. This is not to be confused with the City of Lewiston. The Lewiston Auburn Clean Water Authority manages the wastewater plant. They're a separate entity. Right now, we do provide some very limited SCADA services to them. Basically equates to a few hours a month. They still have a contract with an outside vendor, which is actually located in New Hampshire, that comes out and does a lot of their electrical and SCADA work. With the new addition of the storm surge tank that they're over there actively building now, they're going to have a new big pump station on their facility. It's just more electrical programming work. They need more SCADA assistance. The plant is aging. All of the mechanical structures in there are still old motor starters. All that stuff needs to be updated with VFDs and control processes. They need more SCADA support. So they have asked us for essentially 30 hours a week. So through this, we've been developing a plan. We've included in the budgets an additional SCADA person. So we're actually advertising. We're going to hire another SCADA guy. Between these two people, we will have 80 hours a week of SCADA employee staff time that we will be sending one of those members over to Lockwood for 25% of the total time, which would be about 30 hours a week of SCADA support to there. This plan, to me, works out ideal because they would be employed by us and we're obligated to maintain this agreement. We're not sharing staffing, they're not paying half of our staff costs and we're paying half of somebody else's staff costs. This is much cleaner. This is an employee under our control, and per our control, they're maintaining this agreement. That's what they're tasked with. It's going to bring in additional funding. It's going to allow us to employ the second person, and it's going to give us more redundancy, whereas right now we have one person that if something happens to that person, we're kind of in a hurt because we don't have anybody else. So yeah, the sewer board did support approving this agreement. This was brought forward through the Lockwood board last Friday. Their board has approved this, but before I sign it, I wanted to also get the water district's approval so that we can execute this agreement, and I think it's going to serve us really well.
And I understand Rod Hill was working with you when you worked this out, correct?
Absolutely, yep. He's the big reason that Lockwood wants to have an agreement with us, because of his talents.
He's tops.
He's very, very good. So any discussion on that or thoughts, or?
So we need a vote for this, is that?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Do we have a motion to authorize superintendent to sign the agreement with LACWA to provide SCADA services?
Yeah. I'll move to authorize the superintendent to enter in an agreement with LACWA for SCADA services.
I'd like to second that.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
All right. Thank you all. Okay.
Water metering.
Water metering. I just wanted to give these as an update. I know we talked about this back in October or November, I believe. Matt and I had the opportunity to go down to Medford, Massachusetts. Medford, Mass. We were offered to go down there because they just put in all new water meters of a brand very similar to what we've been looking at, cam-struck meters. It was interesting to see that and kind of get a look at what they had done and what they've been able to do with these new meters. They have about 13,000 customers. In March, they awarded a contractor to a vendor to install all the meters. Medford Water owns all the meters, but they're paying somebody else to put them in. Since March, they've installed 11,000 meters in Medford, Mass. Since March of 2024, they've found 19 water leaks from the data brought back by these meters. they've recouped 11% revenue that they weren't receiving before from putting in the new meters. So they had meters roughly the same ages as ours, based on the fact that the new meters are more accurate than the meters that they were taking out, and the older meters were aged and they weren't as accurate. Their total yield has been around 11%. While we were in this training, I'm sitting over there with my calculator. 11%. We're about $3.5 million a year revenue. 11% over 20 years. That's $5 million for just the water district. When you compound that to the sewer district, that's $10 million between the two districts over 20 years, the life of the meters. And the numbers I presented to you earlier this fall, for us to replace all our meters, just cost of $3.5 million. So all of a sudden, there's like 3 times the benefit over the life of the meters just to go through this. I know it's easy to get excited about this, but there's still a lot of work to be done. We're going to be working on an RFP and RFQ that we would like to distribute in early 2025. We would like to select. I'm not saying that we definitely want to use Camstrup. It looks very intriguing. But we do want to go through that process to make sure we do select the right meters and the right metering technology. Once we do that, then we can start really pulling numbers on, okay, what is this going to cost? So that when I can come back to you in March and say, look, this is what we should do. This is our plan. Let's get after this and go after funding and make this happen.
So there's no regulation as to how old, or for instance, how old somebody's meter is. How do we know that they're accurate?
So
it's not like a gas
Well, we
pump
know
where
they're
they yeah. So
we talked
but it
about
could
this
go
in the
one or the
meeting.
other.
We know they're not because of the wear and tear in the meters. They become less and less accurate.
Yeah.
but
But it could swing either way, right? Or
no,
Okay.
when a meter gets older, it does not read in our favor.
Yeah.
The older they get, they're working for the customer. That chamber inside is not oscillating faster, it's oscillating slower. So you really lose accountability when you talk about low water volumes. Like if somebody just gets a little drink of water at night,
Yeah.
very small amount of water volume being used, it's not enough to turn that register because it's older and it just doesn't, it really takes that, the washing machine.
Are the new ones electronic?
They are, yep, they're ultrasonic, so there's no moving parts in there.
Yeah.
They have a lot of different technologies from vibration sensors, that's where they pick up the water leaks. Again, 19 water leaks. They didn't even know they had a leak. They started putting the meters in and all of a sudden like, what's this? And then they in a matter of minutes, he's pulling this data up. That was the most impressive thing. We're sitting there watching this demo and they're pulling this data up. And it was so easy for him to maneuver around and he was showing us, you can see when it started. We put the meter in March and then in June, this one started leaking. We went out there, we found it was on the customer's side, but we found a leak on their service. And we got it fixed, and you can see where the sound vibration went away. But yeah, it's pretty awesome technology. I'm really excited about it, but I don't want to get too excited. I just still want to build this out, go through the process, and
that would be
come back
something
to
that you would contract out. It wouldn't be something that you would be replacing in-house.
I don't know yet. I don't know enough to say yet. I think I presented 3 options to the trustee board. We could do metering for a service. We could actually sign a contract and we wouldn't even own our meters. We wouldn't even put them in.
Yeah.
Somebody else would come in, they'd put them in, and we would just pay a monthly fee for having the meters. We could do that. You could do, we still own the meters, but we sign a contract and H&H Plumbing comes in and puts in all the meters, and here's the fee per meter when they install them, but we still own them, and we now have this new access and metering technology. That could be option 2. Option 3 would be, I'd have to hire 2 or 3 new people. You start talking about 6,000 or 7,000 water meters, install them over a course of a year, to do 10 meters a day, 15 meters a day. I need people for that. I don't have extra people. We struggle right now just making all of our appointments as it is. So
And with that option too, what do you do with the staff after?
Well, what do you do when you get all the meters in,
Automatic
it's
meter
a
reading.
tough
You don't
one.
want to staff
So
it for a
it'd be
year or two.
RFP.
I'm kind of I'm definitely leaning towards, paying a contractor to install them, or I'm still not closing the door on the metering for a service. I still want to look at it. So
In either of those cases, do they maintain them?
in the metering for a service, they maintain them, and if the meters stop working, you stop paying for that meter. So So if you got 6,000 meters out there, and we just read the meters today, and 6 of them aren't working, that means when we pay the bill this month, we only paid for 5,994. We didn't pay for the 6 that aren't working, and we're not going to pay until
And
they
then
get out
they come
here.
in, so, and then they come
Right.
and fix it.
If we have new customers, oh, they're building some new houses over on such and such street, you know, we schedule the appointment with their vendor, they put the meters in. We basically don't do meters anymore. And we don't pay to put them in, we just pay the monthly fee per meter. So, it's interesting.
Now, is that a step, is it a, right now, does that consume any time?
We have a
comparing
full-time
meters?
staff member who's
Taking care
our
of
meter
meters.
foreman. And he does all the meter reads, he does all the meter appointments. He does basically, anytime a plumber's working on somebody's house, our problem right now is he's so booked up that we struggle to find extra people to help him, because that was the one person that we let go in the last 12 years. We used to have 2 meter people. And one person retired and we didn't replace them. We said, we got radio.
We'll be fine.
We'll be fine. But we do struggle right now, especially if he's on vacation, like, we gotta find somebody for appointments, and it's busy.
I noticed in the activity report that in 2023, there were like 194 meter replacements. And in 2024, there's only been like 78 or something like that. Is that because you don't have the guy to do it, or is it because they just didn't bust?
I think it's just the nature of the calls, just kind of the ebbs and flows of it. The real big uptick that we saw back when we went through COVID, the real estate surge, one thing the meter guy does is he has to go do final reads. So if a property's selling, if you ever want to go dig through some data and see something really fascinating, that post-COVID, when the real estate sales went through the roof, we were doing 200 final reads a month because the properties that were turning over in Auburn. It was ridiculous. Where normally we only average 20 or 30 final reads, but every one of those triggers an appointment. He has to go out, read it on the date of the sale so that we can transfer the account over and they start paying on this date. That one pays up at this date. It's all part of the meter stuff we do.
So would that all go away?
It essentially would, because AMI, it's just a press of a button. I want to see doop 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 X street. There's the reading right there. You don't have to go out anymore to read the meter. The meters transmit to the tower. The tower comes right back to the home base, and you just, I want to know
How are they
Kevin
powered?
Rowell's house. They have an internal battery that's guaranteed for 20 years,
Wow.
and they're guaranteed 100% accurate for 20 years.
Wow.
If their accuracy suffers, you call the vendor. Hey, your meter's not accurate. Replace that.
At that tour that we did, the guy did all his meter reads in about 10 minutes while answering questions.
Yeah, he was giving us the tour.
Wow,
Showing us this stuff, and he's like,
Yeah.
let's do the meter reads right now.
Live one of the whole.
He did the meter reads. They do an interesting thing too. They bill every other month, all customers. Right now we bill quarterly for residential, monthly for commercial. There's a big industry trend of water districts sending out monthly bills, migrating from quarterly water and sewer bills to monthly bills. It's lesser of a bill to customers if you bill monthly. I was really intrigued, but I haven't heard of anybody in Maine doing that, but apparently that's how they do it in Medford, Mass. They bill every other month, all customers. And again, we don't have that capability now, but if we went AMI and we had that, we could make whatever change we want. It was pretty intriguing.
So with the top scenario you're talking about, replacing all of these and all that, Andy would lose his job, there'd still be work for him, right? Or would there be much?
If we went with metering with a service, we would probably look to allocate Andy somewhere else, because we probably wouldn't need a meter foreman anymore. And I've had that kind of, Andy was here the day when the metering for a service guy came in, and we talked about it. The metering for the service, my only takeaway from that is I've run the numbers. It would cost us a lot more. Obviously, you're paying somebody else to own them. You're paying somebody else to maintain them. At the end of the 20 years, you're going to probably be an extra $2 to $3 million that you paid for meters than you would be if you continued to manage them. And that includes all of Andy's time, the vehicles, and you're going to pay more to have somebody else do it. But again, I still want to learn more about it.
Yeah, we'll crunch those.
Are there any other water districts in Maine doing the meters as a service?
Believe it or not, Lewiston is really looking very hard at it. They actually went with us to the tour. There are actually some other benefits that we could realize. We would need 3 towers to read the meters here in Auburn. one tower would read 80%, 86% of all of our meters. The other small percentages around Taylor Pond, we'd need a tower, and we'd need one out in Poland to be able to read all of our meters. That one tower that could read 86% of our system, it could also read 86% of Lewiston. Vice versa, Lewiston's one tower could read 85% of us.
So is that something we could?
That is something that we
collaborate
could
on?
collaborate on and say like, hey, all we need to do is put our little radio up on the same thing as you, and you know, there could be some real economy for savings there if we both go along with the same technology and we go along with the same kind of service. So it's definitely, that's what I was talking to the Lewiston superintendent about when we started talking about the other strategic plan. We were talking about metering.
So potentially you do a joint bid?
Especially when it comes to paying to put the meters in. All of a sudden, we're not just doing 7,000 meters here in Auburn, we're doing another 9,000 over in Lewiston. Makes the numbers a lot more impressive. We could get that contractor from Medford, Mass that just did 11,000 in like, what was it, 6 months, 7 months? That would be pretty cool. So, again, there's a lot to talk about with meters. We're pretty excited about it. It's something we're going to be working on in the next 2 to 3 months. And I'll keep updating you as we go through this, as we get the RFP and RFQ out there, as we start kind of talking with Lewiston to see if we're on the same page there and that type of stuff. Come on in. So, yeah.
So all we have left is the final agenda item for old business is the budget.
Yeah, so we just want to do one more rundown through this. Now, nothing has substantially changed with this draft of the budget from what we presented to you last month. The only change is I did add the $20,000 under equipment. What page is that, Mike?
Second to last.
Second to last page, you'll see where I put $20,000 in for the water quality strategic plan. That is the only substantial change since the last meeting. Where is it? The second to last page, it's the equipment budget. All the way at the bottom, water quality strategic plan, 20,000. Outside of that, I can kind of run through this. On all of our revenues and our expenses, we ran three-year averages. So we assumed a 0% increase in revenue, and all expenses we looked at 3-year averages. That's been the model that we've used in the past. We are talking about maybe revising that in the future, but that's what we ran through for this budget cycle. We did, as we discussed at the last meeting, we kept the 8.9% health insurance increase in there. We went with the 2.5% COLA, and the district is going to fund the 1% paid family medical leave. So that has carried through this budget.
And you have that at the moment in there for the year?
Correct.
And you guys are still examining whether you should use a third-party vendor
Yes.
after the first, okay.
Yep, no, there's
Yeah.
possibilities there that, there's actually a bill that's been submitted that would make us exempt from it, that there's potential there. So there is a potential that we don't wind up having to pay that 1% in 2025, but right now we're budgeted to do so.
I did have a question on page 3.
Sure, we'll go to page 3.
Remember last time I talked about the legal expenses?
Yes.
And that 2025 budget is not an average of the last 3 years. I
No,
don't
we
think.
did, when we were doing this budget, we reduced that. Again, our lawsuit is settled. I don't think we're gonna need the attorneys as much as we have the last, certainly since 2022, you see the big jump in legal fees. I did not feel 100% confident that I could reduce it down to a 3-year average pre-lawsuit. So I felt pretty safe with the 50,000. There is a strong chance that we won't need to use all that in legal. I'm hopeful.
How much is how much of the 50 is the audit? 8?
The audit's 7,000.
7,000?
Yep.
So it's
43,000.
not quite double, but it's almost double the actuals from 2021.
Yep. I knew we still had some legal work we were doing that we discussed, I believe, at the last meeting. So again, I didn't feel comfortable reducing this totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike, couple things on page 3.
Sure.
And under employee benefits, down toward the bottom of that.
Yep.
Shared EE with Lewiston. Why do we have 2792 in there for Lewis Skater Tech?
What is that?
Because their guy is gonna have to be working with Matt, with our guy, with Rod. He's gonna have to work with Rod.
Yeah, we
And
can,
then, and they're gonna be paying us 50% of
what does
Rod's
EE
expense.
stand for?
Employee.
Okay, yeah, that is something that we will no longer need to allocate that money, we will not be paying for the.
It's small money,
Lewis.
but
Yeah, nice,
we're not gonna be
I think we
paying them.
caught the bulk of the fees, that's under payroll, you'll see we line that out, we're not funding that for next year. But for whatever reason, whatever EE stands for, I'm gonna have to look into that, we missed that, but
I didn't know what the E was either, but I just, okay, thank you for that. And health insurance. The budget for this year is 318,000,
Yep,
and the cost is almost that to date. Yet, we have an 8.9% increase in the cost of health insurance, yet you have 307,423, which is less than the 318 for this year. Shouldn't that be a higher number because the insurance is gonna go up, it's gonna cost the district more money?
it's a really good question, Bob.
Yeah, that's a good question.
If you look into that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we will look into that. No, definitely a solid question. I don't know why, if you look at the actual trend, you know, the number we're putting in there for 2025 is more along with where it should be, but why was 24 so much higher? I'll have to look into that. I do know that in addition to funding the health insurance, we fund an HRA. That HRA covers the co-insurances and deductibles of employees as they go through insurance. And I'd be willing to bet the reason that this number is lower is because we didn't utilize all of our HRA and we got funding back for what wasn't utilized. So when you start the year out, you have to put basically less in the slush fund to start. So I bet it's probably to do with that, but we'll get you an answer.
Thank you.
Great. Any other budget questions?
I have only one thing on the very last page, the capital budget summary. Just a couple of things. Under the main replacement on the top, the city paving projects and the DOT paving projects, it's only 155 feet and 187 feet on the streets. And these are streets that are going to be a mill and fill by the state. So I'm thinking these two jobs will need to be dealt with pretty quickly as in the springtime and get a contractor online and doing them before the state starts paving.
Yeah, so those city and DOT paving projects, we are not looking to do main replacement. That 155 and 187 is the number of gate valves. So everywhere there's a number, that gate valve, before they come and do their mill, we have to go down there, we have to jackhammer the gate valve out, lower it, so they can grind the road, and then they put their base pavement down, we raise the gate valve back up, put it back in, and then we readjust it for final pavement. So that number covers that labor. As Matt had kind of brought this up in the project update, we put our bids out with the city and with the DOT, and in some cases the bids came out way higher than we had anticipated. So we're actually looking to put out our own bids, so instead of being with the DOT on their project, we'll find a contractor that could do that, or we're going to have to do it with our staff. But we were kind of hopeful to bid it out, but we're going to have to figure it out.
It's tough work to do, to coordinate with a contractor in these busy thoroughfares. Communication is tough sometimes, weather interferes with that, as well as the timing that they do these, these busy streets that they work in. Work's gonna be at night, we can't afford to have half of our crews gone at night and be bare bones through the week to try to get maintenance done on what we already own, as well as move forward with the capital projects that we're gonna be doing ourselves.
Our crunch is going to be Spring Street. That is not a reconstruction street. Spring is just a paving. So that is going to be something that we're going to be looking to do with our crew. We're going to need to replace that water main, and we're going to be under a crunch of that contractor. They're going to be like, get your work done as fast as you can. So that's where we're probably going to be going in the spring. The loring will most likely, those quantities will be out to bid, and whatever contractor the city selects, they'll be doing that. We'll have lesser involvement with that, but Spring Street will be our crunch.
Thank you.
Yep. All right.
Excellent. So moving on for now, we've got trustee open session. Anybody interested? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, we're adjourned.
All right.